Look at the bed. An old man is dying in it. He is propped against a white bolster, his left arm flung out, his mouth open. Around him stand two lords and a king is praying for him. That is the painting. That is what this painting has been for most of the time it has existed. Now look above the pillow, into the dark beside the red curtain. There is a face in there. It has fangs. It is waiting for him to finish. And until 2023, you could not see it. Not because it was hidden, because it was gone. The man who painted it was Joshua Reynolds, and by 1789, he was the most decorated painter in Britain, President of the Royal Academy, knighted, painter to the king. But the thing he actually wanted was smaller and stranger than any of that. He spent his career arguing that a painter was allowed to think. That painting was not a craft for recording faces, but a language, capable of metaphor, capable of allegory, the equal of poetry. He said it in lectures for 20 years. In 1789, at the very end of his working life, he tried to prove it on a canvas 7 feet wide. He was paid 500 guineas for it, which tells you something on its own. The most important argument of his life arrived as a commercial commission. The scene comes from Shakespeare. Henry VI, Part 2, Act 3, Scene 3. Cardinal Henry Beaufort, Chancellor of England, son of John of Gaunt, a man who had spent 50 years accumulating power, is dying badly, raving, haunted by a murder he arranged. The young king kneels beside him and begs God for a gentle death. And he says this: "Beat away the busy, meddling fiend that lays siege unto this wretch's soul." Every reader for 200 years understood that line the way you just did. The fiend is a figure of speech. It is guilt. It is the ordinary horror of a bad man watching his own ending arrive. Reynolds painted it as an animal, not a symbol, not a shadow suggesting a shape, a creature with a bloodless face and 2 visible fangs, tucked into the darkness at the head of the bed, close enough to the cardinal's ear to be listening. He gave a metaphor a body and set it down on the pillow. The painting opened at the Boydell Shakespeare Gallery in Pall Mall on the 4th of May, 1789. 3 days later, the Times reviewed it. The critic wrote that the imp at the cardinal's bolster could not spoil the picture, but that it did the painter's judgment no credit, that the scene needed no machinery from heaven or hell. The landscape designer Humphrey Repton argued that the creature had no business existing at all, because Shakespeare had never listed it as a character in the play. The National Trust's own curators now describe it as the work that generated more controversy than anything else in that gallery. And notice what the objection is not. Nobody is frightened. Nobody calls it blasphemous. The complaint is procedural, that a poet is permitted to say fiend and a painter is not permitted to show one. Reynolds had spent his life insisting the 2 arts were equals, and the moment he acted on it, the century told him the license of poetry was very different from that of painting. He was asked to remove it. Records of conversations with him show he refused. 2 years later, he got a single defender, and it was not a painter. It was Erasmus Darwin, physician, poet, grandfather of Charles, who asked in print why painting should not speak in metaphor and indistinct allegory the way poetry does. He described a great modern painter putting a demon behind the pillow of a wicked man on his deathbed, and noted that the cold criticism of the day had depreciated it. By then, Reynolds was almost blind. On the 13th of July, 1789, 10 weeks after the opening, he stopped painting. He wrote that he had been prevented by his eye beginning to be obscured. By the end of that year, the left eye was finished. That September, a London paper noted his failing sight and observed that his unfinished Macbeth would now probably remain forever in its visionary state. It was right. He never mounted a defense of the fiend, never painted a second one, never got to make his argument twice. He died in February 1792. That same year, someone went after the creature. The gallery sold engraved prints of its paintings. That was the actual business. The pictures were advertising. The engraver Caroline Watson had cut the plates, and the first run of prints shows the fiend exactly as Reynolds painted it. Then a second run was made in 1792, after his death, and on those plates you can see an attempt to take the creature out. Someone worked at the copper until the thing above the pillow began to disappear. That is the first erasure. There is a second one, and it is stranger, because nobody did it on purpose. Reynolds was an experimenter with materials. He mixed unusual mediums into his paint, resinous, waxy things, chasing effects, and his conservators have been paying for it ever since. The fiend lived in shadow, which meant he built it out of slow-drying earth browns, the worst possible pigments to lay into a wax-loaded medium. The paint shrank. In the 19th century, the canvas was relined, and too much heat was used. Varnish went on, and more varnish, until there were 6 layers of it, darkening. By the time restorers reached that corner of the canvas, the creature had broken up into small islands of paint. And here is the part that should unsettle you. They did not recognize it. The National Trust's curator describes it as misunderstood by early conservators, an area of damage rather than a face. So they worked over it, layer after layer, by several different hands. The demon Reynolds refused to erase was erased anyway, slowly, by people trying to help. By the 20th century, hanging at Petworth House in Sussex, the painting had a clean, dark corner above the pillow where nothing appeared to be. It looked, in the words of the Trust, as though the fiend had been taken out of the canvas too. In 2023, preparing for the 300th anniversary of Reynolds's birth, conservators took the picture apart. It was one of 4 Reynolds canvases treated that year, and by some distance the most difficult. The non-original varnish came off. The overpaint came off, and the face came back, fangs, hollow stare, 6 inches from the ear of a dying man, for the first time in living memory. It hangs at Petworth now, restored, in a house where for 2 centuries, visitors walked past a deathbed and saw nothing in the dark. Which leaves one thing to sit with. Reynolds fought to keep that creature on the canvas, and he lost anyway, not to his critics, who could not make him move, but to varnish, and heat, and well-meaning hands, and time. It took 230 years to give him back his own decision. So when you stand in front of any old painting, and you look at the dark parts, and you see nothing there, how would you know?